It was unlikely that they'd be issued a grant again anytime soon, so he quit his job there and came back here for good. He said that he regretted ever letting go of me, especially the way he broke up with me through text. He said that I deserved better after being with him for so long, and I was glad that he had come to his senses, at least on that front. He ended his romantic speech by saying that now that he was back, we could pick up right where we left off and get married as soon as we could because he, in his 3 years of staying apart from me, had realized that I was the woman of his dreams, and he had made a huge mistake by breaking up with me. So, he wanted to give our relationship a real chance this time and get back together. I waited for him to finish his speech and didn't interrupt even once while he was talking because I wanted to see where he was going with this. But when he was done talking, I didn't say much and just showed him the ring on my finger and informed him that I was already married to Sam, his cousin, who happened to be a billion times better than him, and that his apology was too little, too late. His jaw literally dropped to the ground, and I took that opportunity to slam the door shut on his face and told him to leave. I was furious afterward and tried to calm myself down until Sam came back home. It was the weekend, and he was out with a couple of his work buddies, so he hadn't been home. His band had broken up a couple of years ago, around the same time when we started getting serious, and he had joined his friend's dad in their event management business. If the events they were catering to ever needed a band, he and his friends would regroup and play for them as well, so it was perfect for him. But anyway, it had been a hard week for him at work because there was a lot of backtrack, so this was a well-deserved break, and I didn't want it to bother him. I didn't text him or call him to tell him about this until he came back home, and only then did I inform him about Felix's visit. He told me that he had received several calls from his uncle, Felix's dad, but he didn't know what it was about. Since he was out with his friends, he figured that he could just come back and call him, but now that he knew, he felt uncomfortable about the whole thing. He told me that he hadn't really considered how this was going to look to Felix when he found out. I told him that it didn't matter what Felix thought because he was the one who dumped me without a proper explanation or even a goodbye, and his opinion was pretty much irrelevant. After that conversation, we decided to talk to Felix's parents since they had been trying to reach Sam several times while he was out. They had tried to call me as well, but I hadn't really checked my phone because I was annoyed. Once we were on a call with them, they informed us that right after Felix visited me, he went to his parents' place and really flipped out on them because of what he had learned. First, he yelled at them for keeping this a secret from him for so many months, years if you count the time that we were dating and living together. He accused them and his entire family of betraying him and said that they were all sick in the head for supporting our marriage and allowing this to happen. He said that apparently I was a disgusting person to go after his cousin because I couldn't have him, and he was convinced that I was just doing this for revenge and that I actually had no real feelings for Sam. He said that I was just using him to make him jealous, but the jig was up now, and he wasn't jealous but just disgusted. I couldn't believe that he would say such things about me because not one word of it was true. If I actually wanted to make him jealous, then I would have done that way back and wouldn't have waited for him to come crawling back to me only to tell him that I'm married now. Most importantly, I'm not a psycho who is still hung up on him and got married just to make him feel insecure. I have real feelings for Sam, and that's why I'm with him. I don't owe him an explanation, so I didn't follow up on this. In the next couple of days, both Sam and I tried to pretend that Felix hadn't come back at all and tried to move on with our lives. But Felix showed up again a couple of days ago, and this time both of us were at home. The two of us had just returned from work, and when we heard Felix shouting for us, we made our way out and saw him making a drunk scene in the street in front of our house. He was screaming at the top of his lungs about how we had ruined his life, which didn't even make sense because he didn't even know about us until a couple of days ago. As soon as we opened the door and he spotted me, we realized that we had made a mistake because the moment he saw me, he started sobbing violently. He started talking about how he had truly loved me and how he had never stopped thinking about me, even when he was living in Germany. The only reason he hadn't reached out to me was because he didn't want to disturb my peace by coming back into my life again. He said that he could make his peace with the fact that I had moved on, but he couldn't come to terms with the fact that I had moved on with his cousin of all people. He said that I was selfish and inconsiderate and that it was shameless of us to get married, knowing about my history with him. At that point, Sam called the police and had him taken away, but I couldn't stop thinking about the things that he said. It was really upsetting to see him act that way because he was usually quite a put-together guy, and it was clear to me that seeing me with Sam had really broken him. Sam and I haven't talked about that incident and are pretending that it never happened, but I don't know for how much longer we can go on acting like these things aren't happening. To be honest, we had never really considered what would happen once Felix came back and how he would react to this or what he would have to say about our marriage. And honestly, it shouldn't matter, but for some reason, it does. We were able to ignore my past with him for so long because he wasn't around us, but now that he's back and is making his presence felt, it's becoming more and more difficult for us to ignore that part of my history.